everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new here, hi, my name is Jacqueline and I make videos on social work and simplifying life. I earned my MSW in 2020 and obtained my license in clinical social work not long after that, and today I'm going to tell you how I passed my LCSW exam. If you don't know what an LCSW is, if you're just getting into social work school or wanting to learn more about social work in general, clinical social work is more hands-on direct work with clients and people in the population. There's different types of social work and there's definitely different types of populations that we can work with, and there is also something called like macro social work, and you work with large communities or groups of people, and clinical social work is more directed towards that one-on-one individual type of social work. So I want to preface this by saying that every state may have different ways of going about their clinical social work licenses and licenses in general. I know some states the LCSW is the highest social work license you can go up to, and that includes longer in the field working hours, supervision hours. It just takes more time to do because it is the highest you can go. Whereas in my area we have LCSW. That stands for Licensed Independent Clinical Social Worker, and in that aspect, I haven't looked a lot into that license, but I do know you can have a private practice with an LCSW, and you can just do a little bit more and go further with that. But that is what, if you would like to go for that in my area, that is when you need the, like, I think it's like 2,000 field work hours and supervision and taking another exam, that kind of thing. But the LCSW is before that, and in my area the LCSW you can get right after you get your master's in social work. You take the exam. It doesn't require any extra field hours, it just requires an exam. But yeah, I just wanted to give that really quick overview and mention that I did graduate an advanced standing program, getting my master's in social work. I have videos on that. Feel free to check out my channel for other videos about my social work school journey. Let's just get into this video on some more information on the LCSW. I think I took around 2 hours to do the exam. Every state may be different with this, but I believe that's how long it took for me. The test I took was a lot of scenario-based questions, which is like, if a client did this, what would you do? It was a few sentences long and they gave you scenarios, and you would choose of multiple choice A, B, C, or D, which one fits best with that. There were also some definition questions, I believe, some word definitions, terminology, but mostly it was made up of scenarios. So to start off, when I was a few months away from graduating with my MSW, this was before the pandemic, I believe, but my school still offered an LSW prep course. So I took advantage of that, and that also came with a book that we could borrow, and it was held by a professor who went over a bunch of things related to the LCSW exam. A lot of that course was based on how to take the test, not just the content on it. So it was really, really helpful. So there was like everything from eat a good breakfast that morning and get enough sleep to the actual wording on the questions and how the wording on a question matters and how it can affect the answer you choose. Nourishment and getting enough rest is really important in taking tests and having your brain function to, you know, full capacity. So if that is possible for you, I highly recommend doing that. I think that's very helpful, a very good tip that she gave. And yeah, just the wording of the questions also matters, like I said. So if your school has any kind of free prep course or any type of LCSW preparedness, anything, books, classes, whatever, I highly suggest taking it. So I mentioned that they gave us a book to borrow. I summarized and read that book like beginning to end. Again, this was during all the stuff that went on in summer 2020, so I did have more time than I think maybe I would have if that didn't happen. But yeah, so just maybe keep that in mind when I give you these tips and tricks. I did have more time than usual, and I did carve out that time too, which is important. I know it's not always possible, but take these tips with what you can do. So I don't think I could highlight the book because I borrowed it, but I wrote down notes, everything that I didn't know, everything that I thought would be important. I wrote down by hand on paper, because for me, that's the best way that helps me remember. All throughout school, that's how it was. I remember really well when I write it down. And I didn't have any distractions around me. I had very much a calm, distraction-free zone I tried to be in. So at least like a few hours a day, I was writing down notes from each chapter. And when I was finally done with that, I would type them all up. You could also do it by chapter, like write down each chapter and then type it up. But that is how I did it. I wrote them all out and got all that information on paper and then typed it all out again. I think that really helped me because I could, one, like I said, write it all down manually by hand and it would help me remember. But when I went over it again to type it out, that was another way to refresh that memory and continue remembering what I was writing down. When I type it out again, I can see the information all over. At the end of each chapter, there was questions, like a little like test for you where there was questions and then the answers were in the back of the book. And I took full advantage of those as well. I would go over all of those questions myself and try to do the quiz and go back over the answers. And the beauty of that was also they didn't just say like, oh, the answer is B. It said B because, or the answer is A because. It would explain it. So that was really helpful. I would also have my family members help me out with that and read the questions to me, and I would answer them as well. So if you have a really good support system, I highly, highly recommend that as a big tip. They can be so helpful to you, whether it is reading you the questions or just helping keep you accountable and reminding you to study, or, you know, helping you type up some notes even. Whatever the case is, if you have that support system, I highly recommend utilizing them. I also used I think it's called Pocket Prep. I will put it in here on the screen if that wasn't right. But it is an app that you can download on your phone and it gives you daily test questions. I think you can pay for like more questions or more parts of the app, but I just used the free version and I got some daily questions that I answered, and I think that was helpful as well. I also went online and looked up LCSW resources. So that's another tip I would give. If there's some online resources or chats, help groups, that kind of thing, feel free to join those too and find those and find the people that are also studying or have been through it. So on the actual test day, I got there early and I had a little bit of a drive there, but I was able to take that time to relax and prepare for taking the test. I didn't study much on the day of. I probably read some of my study guide that I made myself, which was those typed up notes I told you about. That was like my own study guide. And I read a little bit of that, but I didn't, you know, go super hard into studying because I had already done that. So I wanted to keep my mind very fresh and clear as possible. I remember getting like a small coffee and just sitting down and relaxing before the test. I also sat there and did some deep breathing, and I told myself I was going to pass this test, and I am all for affirmations and positive self-talk to myself. And if that works for you, I highly, highly recommend doing this. You know, just telling yourself, even if it's on the drive there, like, I'm going to pass this test. I am going to pass this test. Just giving yourself that positive self-talk and putting it in your brain that you can do it. Remind yourself, like, I've studied for this, I've done my notes, I have done a lot of work to study for this, and just reminding yourself of all the things that you have done to prepare for this test. So I took my LCSW exam on a computer, and of course, looking at a computer for that long, sometimes you need like a little break, I guess, and we weren't allowed to take breaks and get up out of our chair and leave, I don't think. So what I did was every so often, after like many questions, I would just kind of take a second to like look away from the computer or look down at the keyboard, whatever you're like looking at, just like look away from the computer for a few minutes, take a couple deep breaths, and had a little like break for my brain almost. And it didn't require getting up or anything like that. And I know some exam areas, I don't know how yours will be set up or anything. Mine was in a computer room and it had dividers. And if your test instructor maybe says don't look at other places because I don't want you looking at people's tests or something. That could be a factor in doing that. But for me, I was able to kind of just look down and give myself a break from looking at the screen for too long. I didn't do that every few minutes or anything. I probably did it just a few times throughout the whole 2-hour test, but I think it was helpful. For my test, I was also able to bookmark questions and go back to them. So I think that was a really cool feature on the LCSW exam, that you are able to, if you didn't know the answer to the question and you want to go back to it, clicked a little bookmark icon and move on. And then at the end of the test, you could go back to your bookmarks and go over them. Not only could you do this with questions that you aren't sure the answer, but you could do that with questions where you think it's the answer, but if you have time at the end, you can always go back and just look at them again. So that's what I did. At the end of the exam, I did have extra time still, and I went over my bookmarked questions. I might have even like chosen answers for the ones I didn't know, the best one that I could possibly think of, and just in case I didn't have extra time. Fortunately, I did, so I was able to go back over to the bookmarks and go through them and really just take my time and not rush through it. So if your computer does have that feature, look out for that and read all the directions very thoroughly, and you can take advantage of those little things that they put in. So yes, overall, those are my tips for how I passed the LCSW exam, and I just want to wish everybody luck who is about to take that exam, or just going to social work school in general. Anyone who's looking into going into social work and the paths that you can go down. This can be a stressful time, but also very exciting, and I wish all the luck to anyone taking the LCSW exam. I really hope this video helped you. Please feel free to like and subscribe if it did. If you have any specific questions, please write them down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!